time for a break. Grab a coffee, get comfy, and catch up with old friends. Join us for an easy chat on all the biggest news stories of the day on ICRT Break Down, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in cooperation with the National Development Council.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the ICRT Breakdown. And we're kind of taking a change this time. We're going to have a guest with us, a very special guest. But first, let me introduce, we have Paz with me.
Hello.
I'm Tim from ICRT, and our special guest today is Mary Chen.
Here. I'm Mary. Hello, guys.
And Mary is the host of 说点英文
or Chill Pill English.
Ooh.
Yes. Oh, you're having a duel there.
So maybe tell us a little bit about your podcast, and we've all listened to it. And what's your concept? What's the message you want to share with your audience?
Sure. The name of the podcast is Chill Pill English, but in Chinese it's called 说点英文. So it kind of sends out two meanings, two message. One, in Chinese, we encourage people to speak a little bit of English. You don't need to know a lot. You just need enough to talk to people in English to make yourself understood. And that's enough. You just need 说一点点. For entry-level students, all they need just a little bit to strike up the conversation. And in Chill Pill English, I hope to encourage our audience to just take a chill pill. So I wish them just listen to my podcast and relax, lay back, and enjoy.
I'm also curious though, Mary, you look rather young, just like my coworker Paz here.
And you too, Tim.
I'm the old part here, I'll admit it. 我是老头. So I'm kind of curious, how did you become a podcaster and an English teacher? Did you have a background in podcasting or teaching?
In teaching, not in podcast.
Okay.
I guess nobody has a background
PhD in podcasting.
Podcasting, true. So actually, I went to NTNU.
Okay,
right.
Okay.
The teaching training program one.
Okay.
So when I was in that college, I actually wasn't thinking that, okay, I'm going to become a teacher. But since they have this teacher training program, I was thinking, okay, might as well take one.
All right.
I'm already here. So might as well use that. And then after taking that program, I realized that, I actually have a passion for it.
Yes.
So I started teaching when I was in junior year of my college.
Oh, wow.
College, right?
Like you're
so
20 years
this year,
old?
oh my God, this is my advantage, right? So I've been teaching for 9 or 10 years.
Okay.
Like I said, you're still young. Okay.
I'm still young, right? And that's how I started teaching. And for my podcast, it's funny to say it started about 3 years ago when the pandemic hit. Right. So at that time, I had fewer classes due to pandemic. So I was thinking, what else can I do? And at that time, I was always thinking that I want to do more to help people learn English because this is my passion.
Yeah.
And at that time, my sister actually came to me saying that, I feel really frustrated because I feel that I cannot carry on a conversation with my foreign colleagues. Every time the conversation started, hi,
how you doing? How was your day?
Good. And then it finished, awkwardly.
Yes.
So she came to me and asked me, hey, do you have any suggestions about this? Because I really want to share some of the things that I know or I read in the news to them, but I don't know how. So it kind of gave me an inspiration of, okay, how about I created a YouTube channel or podcast or anything to help people to carry on a conversation.
Right.
So I kind of started this podcast with one of my friends, but now it's just me.
Okay.
And every week, I choose a news story and kind of summarize it into 3 to 5 sentences, not too much.
Okay.
And then I'll teach them to my audience, teach them the vocabulary, grammar, and most importantly, the pronunciation.
Okay.
So they know how to speak those sentences and make themselves understood for their foreign colleagues.
Right.
So then whenever they're in need of sharing something trendy, fun to their foreign colleagues, there you go. There you have it.
Cool. Yeah. So how do you choose what kind of news stories? So I remember the last episode that you did was about the mummified remains. We don't call them mummies anymore. It's got to be politically correct.
Creepy. Yes. Right. How I choose, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, usually I just choose the ones that would interest me, that would intrigue me.
Yeah.
So I think for my part, I think whatever that would interests me might as well intrigue my audience.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so it's kind of like birds of a feather flock together.
Exactly.
So like the listeners that are meant to listen to you will come to you if you speak about the topics
and
that
also,
interest you.
I try to choose the ones that remains, not too trendy, so they can just remember that and kind of use that topic again and again in the future.
I'm also kind of curious, though. So you mentioned that you're doing this to help the Taiwan audience better use English in conversation, especially maybe with foreign friends they may have. So what's the reaction been to your podcast from the audience?
Actually, I've been receiving lots of comments and DMs about my audience saying that it's really useful for them because sometimes they are running out of topics to talk about. They come up with, oh, I remember that phrase, that mummy. Oh, what did I learn from that podcast? Oh, do you know mummified person? They changed the name. Do you know that? So they came up with that interest info and they have that in their mind and that have been very useful to them.
所以你主要的目标就是想要让台湾的听众可以就是
怎么样
跟外国人聊天的时候，就是可以联想到一些有趣的一些时事，然后可以跟他们
对，重点是不要让他们有点词穷，或者是有时候他们其实心里是有一些想法的，but they have no idea how to convey that. Right.
Okay, I see. So 让他们讲出心里的话，
顺的，至少有东西，就是有墨水可以分享。
Okay, I see. Awesome. All right, so then today we're talking about Carnival. So you guys already know about Carnival.
Of course.
What do you know about Carnival?
I know the basics.
What are those?
Well, okay, so I'm from
Carnival.
the States.
I think it's 嘉年华, right, in Chinese.
Right. But I'm from the States, so everyone knows Mardi Gras in the States.
Right.
Which is what they do in New Orleans.
Yes.
But that's at the same time as Carnival.
Right.
And so I understand, too, that the whole concept of Carnival and Mardi Gras comes from religion.
Yes.
Mainly from Catholicism, 天主教. And the whole idea that during the period of Lent,
yes,
which is the 40 days before Easter, you need to give up all the fun things in life.
Yep, you need to stop partying.
So no booze, no rich food,
no butter, no cake,
no dates
sugar.
all the time and stuff
Nothing
like
that makes you happy.
Exactly.
So the idea is you have a lot of fun before Lent, because during Lent you can have no
fun at all.
对，玩的东西都不可以了。
Yeah, okay, so you're familiar with it from knowing about Mardi Gras,
in the States,
the American celebration
in New
of
Orleans.
Carnival.
But that's only in New Orleans, yes.
What do you know about Carnival?
I actually know very little about carnivals.
Okay.
Whenever I think of carnivals, bear with me, but I think of half-naked women dressing beautifully and dancing to
Okay,
it.
I see. So you kind of think about like the Brazilian.
Exactly. That's the most iconic one, right?
Right. I think that was probably the most famous carnival is the Brazilian carnival, where they have this huge parade, 游行, and then they have like these giant floats.
花车.
Yeah. And so they're just like traveling around. And like you say, the beautiful, exotic-looking women wearing wonderful costumes, dancing.
And I think the important thing is that you mentioned it's the most iconic carnival out there, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
So iconic meaning it's the most representative, the most sums it all up.
I think when people think of Carnival, they immediately go like, yes, Brazilian samba.
Right.
So it's kind of like where the train of thought tends to lead. So there's also the Carnival in Nice. I actually was hearing this morning that the last time they had a Carnival in Nice in France was 4 years ago because of the pandemic. So this year they're finally going back in person. So a lot of people are excited about the festival in Nice.
Cool.
There's also the festival in Brazil and in France and in Italy.
Venice.
Yeah. I've never been to Europe, Italy before, so I was like, what do you guys know about the Venice Carnival?
I have no idea, but I've been looking forward to joining one someday. Because I've been learning, yes, because actually I've been learning Italian, so I really want to go and practice my Italian.
I see. I know the word carnival comes from Italian, like carnivale, like I think it's
Carnivale.
Like which means like to eat,
to remove the meat.
Because as Tim mentioned,
one of the things you remove during Lent
is you remove the meat from your diet, and hence carnival. Okay, well, my experience with carnival is actually the Dominican Republic, which is where my dad is from.
And where you grew up.
And where I grew up, And so So it's they also celebrate Carnival like right around this time of year. So it basically like a week-long celebration. There's also like a huge parade, and then it ends with the Independence Day celebration.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a week-long party. But I think one of the most notable things about Dominican Carnival is that they have devils. So the carnival in Dominican Republic, they have these Diablo Cajuelos, which translate as limping devils. 就是 脚残的恶魔. Anyways, so they wear these gigantic paper mache masks. 他们那个面具全部都是用纸做的，纸跟 I think like 泥浆就反正就叠在一起. So yeah. So they make these giant devil-like faces, and then they also travel around with something we call vejigas. So vejigas literally translates as balloons. 它是用那个动物的膀胱去做的.
What?
Yeah, they're made with the bladder of I think goat bladder or pig bladder, and so they fill it. Okay, so they pump it with air, and then they tie it to a string, and then they just go around hitting people.
Oh my god!
就是整个街就是到处去打人的屁股, and then
I hope it doesn't smell.
It doesn't smell bad, but it hurts a lot. And then they say that it's supposed to be good luck.
But Paz, you didn't answer the most important question.
What?
Were you ever hit by one of these?
I have been hit.
Tim, balloons?
This is the only thing I remember about Carnival. When people say, "Hey, Carnival," my memory flashes back to that moment that this dude just hit me in the back with his air-filled bladder, and I was just like, "Why do we do this?" Okay, so Tim mentioned the holiday comes from the Christian period of
before Easter.
Lent, yeah. So Lent, 它是复活节40天前会做的一个就是断食禁食的一个时段。So 在禁食之前就要先 好好的吃一下. Yeah, to make sure to eat your fill. Yes.
Well, okay, I think we should have a quick recap on what the different carnivals are. So we've kind of mentioned the different places, Venice, Nice, Brazil, but let's kind of get a little bit more into detail. So what's special about Venice, Paz?
Okay, so the carnival in Venice started around 1162, and it actually was an important kind of like a military victory parade in Venice. So a lot of the traditions that they have are very different compared to other carnivals from other places. Later on, it was banned by the Holy Roman Empire in the 1700s.
Probably too much debauchery.
Right. They were having too much fun. And then 2 centuries later, like 200 years later, they decided to bring it back. But this time, like with masks, like people would make masks out of paper mache, and they would be like each designer would have like their own intricate designs, and it would be something that you can easily buy during Carnival as well. Like masks are everywhere in Venice.
Cool.
威尼斯的嘉年华，他们起先是就是打仗胜利，然后就是会有大的游行，然后有一阵子呢，那个 Roman Holy Empire，反正就是政府啦，就禁止他们不能再去有这样子的一些庆祝。然后后来过了200年之后，他们又说 ，OK, no, let's bring it back， 我们把它带回来。然后就变成了是威尼斯有名的，他们会戴一些很美丽的 like very beautiful masks 一些面具，然后会有一些装扮的比赛，然后他们也会比说谁的面具是最好看的。They also have a competition for their costume and for their masks and for their fashion.
And what's interesting then is Nice. It was established in 1294, so after Venice, but it's still considered to be the original carnival celebration. So maybe by the time it started off in Nice, it was more similar to what we have today.
Yeah.
And starting in 1873, that's, over 150 years ago, they got a facelift. I think we could all stand a facelift. And was reinvented into a parade, adding masquerades, satirical floats, and competition. So it is kind of like what they're doing today in Rio and other places like that.
Yeah, I think like the parade thing has always been a very important aspect of all carnivals. Like in Nice, there's a parade. In Venice, there's a parade as well.
So what else goes on in Brazil?
In Brazil, I think Brazil is the most well-known. People immediately think about like the long parades, and then they also do dancing. 大家比较有印象的是巴西的那个嘉年华，大家都会出来游行，然后跳舞。And there's also a lot of music. A lot of the parades are organized by samba schools. So they would have dancers, like professional dancers wearing these beautiful costumes. And, they would be leading the parade. And I'm guessing leading people to join in and dance in with them. Because in Brazil, you really have to participate in the parades rather than just watching them.
And when you were mentioning parades just now, I think it was in Nice that they started doing the paper mache masks and doing the floats. And so that's kind of like another thing that's been carried over to today.
Right. So the Venice masks were not made of paper mache. They're like the masquerade ball masks, the ones that you just hold to your face, and those are really pretty. Okay, and then Nice has the paper mache floats. So Nice 它算是原先的嘉年华，它是1294年开始的。So even though it was later than the Venice Carnival, it's still considered. 大家都还是认为它是第一个，就是 the original carnival celebration， 就是最起先的。然后在1873年的话呢，它就是被重新改造 ，so it was reinvented. It got a facelift into a parade， 就是有游行。They added masquerades， 一样就是有戴面具。不过他们的面具是用纸做的，跟威尼斯的面具不太一样。The masks in Venice are beautiful, whereas the masks in Nice they're more colorful and bigger. 他们比较大，比较华丽。All right, so that brings us to our which one would you like to experience the most?
For me, I would personally really want to participate in the Brazilian carnivals because first of all, it's the most iconic one, so might as well go to that one first. And second of all, I really feel that the carnivals in Nice and Venice, they look more of like a show, a performance.
Right.
So if you go there, you kind of just maybe stand there, sit there to watch people have the competition, have the parade. But I have this sort of, I don't know, stereotype that if you go to Brazilian carnivals, you can actually,
in it.
Exactly, you'll be put in the celebration. You'll feel the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
And also, I have this stereotype of Latinos are really hospitable,
very passionate,
so maybe
very
I'll
friendly.
be able to mingle with locals more. That's what I'm looking for. So that's why I want to go to Brazilian Carnival the most.
I
How
see.
about you guys?
Okay.
I think I'd shy away from like Rio de Janeiro because to me it's too many people.
I see.
And I'm kind of at that point in my life where I don't need big crowds.
Okay.
I've done that. I bought the T-shirt, you know. But in some ways, New Orleans still kind of attracts me just because New Orleans is so famous for its music.
Yes.
It's jazz and it's, the rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
And the Dixie music, all that type of stuff. And so I think it might be a good chance just to try and feel some of the different genres of music out there.
Yeah.
And also maybe it's not quite as crowded, so I won't feel like I'm getting lost in the crowd. So
That makes sense.
I'll let Mary get lost in the crowd.
I'll do that.
I'll have my
I'll let you.
stool in the restaurant and I'll enjoy the music.
Well,
okay?
I haven't experienced that. Maybe after I experience that, I'll go with you in New Orleans.
I'll tell you where to check out all the good music, okay?
Please do.
Okay.
All right. Yes.
And
And
you
Paz?
guys?
Well, since I've already experienced the party,
okay.
yeah,
So
I've
you're
already-
enjoying
Dominican Republic one, yeah.
I've already been spanked by a devil with his bladder balloon. So I think I actually am very interested in the New Orleans Mardi
Ooh.
Gras, but more for the food because I know like southern,
yes.
Creole food and like southeastern
United
American
States.
food. Yeah,
Southeast
they have very interesting seafood. There's like gumbo, and then there's crawfish, and
Right,
there's a lot of
right.
things that I feel like I don't usually eat outside of. Maybe would be able to eat that in New Orleans.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm convinced. Coming in. Can I join your team?
Let's go to New Orleans.
You have the perfect situation here.
Yes.
Really?
I'll go check out the music. Paz will check out the food.
Ah,
We'll
yes.
share that information with you.
Once you
and
come
you'll have
back from
one
the party,
crazy
you'll know exactly
Mardi
where to
Gras
go.
carnival.
So after being, squeezing by the crowd, I can come back to you guys
Exactly,
for food
yes,
and music.
yes.
Great plan.
Best of both worlds.
Yes. All right. So that concludes our topic.
That
of
concludes our
Carnival.
topic, but there's one thing I want to add.
Yes.
And that's my little pet segment. And this is not this is not a pet like your dog or kitty. And maybe it's kind of a sappy name, but who cares? We all have like our pet peeves. Okay, and you guys don't know what a pet peeve is. It's something you really don't like. Okay, or maybe there's something which is like your cat's meow. It's something meow meow. It's something you really like.
Yes.
And I notice that a lot with language. Oftentimes I'll hear something and I just kind of go like, why did they say that?
Yes.
And so maybe I should just start.
Okay.
Okay. So my pet, it's going to be my pet peeve, but it's also kind of my cat's meow. And that's, you all heard the expression, you only live once.
Right.
Okay, and usually that kind of means like you only live once, so you're going to go do something really fun and crazy because, hey, you only have one chance to do it.
Right.
But recently it's been used a lot as YOLO, you only live once. And it's kind of the idea that some people will do something maybe very impulsive or they have complete disregard for the consequences because you only live once.
Right.
It's kind of like a negative...
Right. It becomes an excuse for them to do
something bad or something they wouldn't normally do. And so that's kind of my pet peeve there.
Okay.
I don't like that. And maybe I just don't like that people are doing that.
I mean, okay.
They're ignoring the consequences of their actions.
What if you think about it this way? It's kind of like we are in the 21st century now.
We are? Okay, yes.
It's a 21st century equivalent of Carpe Diem, though, isn't it? It's like seize the day. Yeah. You seize YOLO.
Okay.
Think about the Roman legion traveling down.
Than YOLO. Sounds like you're kind of like a crazy person, but hey.
It's a 21st century equivalent.
So that's my pet peeve for the week.
All right. What about you, Mary? Any phrases or useful or unuseful words that you learned recently?
Well, recently, I don't really learn any slangs, but I heard this usage the other day. I heard people saying that happy medium. So it's like when two people are arguing or are having different opinions and they're trying to find a point in middle. So they would try to say, okay, let's try to find a happy medium. So you're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy. Let's try to find something that we can both compromise.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that's a great way.
So it's not when you're going from a large and then you finally try on a medium shirt and you're like, yes, this is my happy medium. Nothing to do with that. Yes. All right.
Yeah,
right.
So happy medium.
Like a compromise where everyone can be happy. All right. Yeah.
Right. And Paz?
A phrase I've seen recently pop up quite often on YouTube Shorts is, maybe we don't mention YouTube Shorts, but a phrase I recently learned was, all right, bet.
Huh?
And you have to spell it like I bet. Like there's no L or R. It's AIGHT, I bet. So
it's pronounced R-I bet?
No, I
like
bet. You're, like I'm I. Like, all right. But the slang version of it, I don't do a very good slang voice. Yes.
Okay, you'll have to practice a bit more.
So just all right, bet just basically just means okay. So it's like, you want to go grab a coffee? All right, bet.
All right, bet.
Yeah.
And
bet.
Okay is too long for someone
apparently.
to say? Okay.
Or it's just they don't want people to understand that they're agreeing.
That's probably they're trying to be cool.
Yeah.
They're being different.
That actually reminds me of this one that I heard the other day. Actually, a long time ago, but I really like this one. It's Later Skater.
Yes. Okay, I would say it's about like the same group of youngsters would say, like, all right, let's go have a coffee. All right, bet. Later, skaters. You're hearing this conversation.
I love it.
Or like Later Gator.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it's time for us to do our Later Skater.
Yes.
And skate on out of this place.
I should say, all right, bet.
Okay, Paz. Okay.
All right.
But anyways, thank you, Mary, for joining us this week, or this month, or this whatever.
Thank you for having me.
And
thank you for sharing some of your insights, too.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed hearing your concept for your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I hope it helps more people better communicate in English.
I hope it does.
Keep thinking up some interesting topics for people to talk about.
Please
we'll
keep
send
on
you
the
some.
pet segment. Yes, I will.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yay!
Breaking the ice, breaking the mold, breaking down the news. You've been listening to ICRT Breakdown, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in association with the National Development Council.